Right. So what is this testing effects concept? It's a very simple concept. As you know, we have discussed earlier about the governor limits and stuff like that. And we understand that Salesforce is on a multi-tenant environment and it never wants a wrong code to be deployed. You know, any code which is not correct to be deployed to the production. All right. So they try to make sure that all the code which has been written, every piece of code which has been written, gets some sort of testing before it is deployed to production, so that it's good thing for from the Salesforce end that they will not have the codes running in which are not correct. Okay, and it's also good from the client end. The client will be happy if your code is correct before deployment. If you do some sort of testing, your clients will face lesser difficulties in executing the code, right? So sometimes it happens that you have written a code that works pretty okay for one scenario. You tested it with one particular record, it worked absolutely fine, but now you try to test it with some other record, it's not working. So finally, when it's deployed, it does not work properly, okay, and it starts giving error. So Salesforce has a very simple concept that any code which is being deployed needs to be tested. Okay, how that will be tested? There is a way of testing that, and when we do the testing, Salesforce returns a code coverage for the code. All right, so it's pretty simple. Let's say if you have 100 lines of code, okay, if you have 100 lines of code, you'll have to write uh, test methods to test the actual code. Okay, so it's like more code to test the original code. That is what it is. Okay, so you need to write test methods. So far we have talked about different types of methods, but now I'm going to talk about the test method. So you need to write test method to test the actual code. So this test method will not do anything. It will not do any DML operations. It's not going to create data. It's not going to delete any data. It will only test your actual code and see if your actual code is working fine or not. That's what it will do, right? And if it finds that your code is fine, then it will give you a code coverage. All right, so that's a simple logic. So for every correct line of code, because we have 100 lines of code, for every correct line of code it will give you 1% code coverage. It depends on how many lines you have. So you get the code coverage depending on how many lines of code you have. Now you need minimum 75% of code coverage to deploy your Apex to production. Simple thing. Minimum code coverage which is required is 75%. So there's not, if your code coverage is not 75%, you cannot deploy your Apex to production. Fine. So that's the logic. Now how does it calculate 75%? 75% of the lines. So if you have 10 lines of code, you should have at least 8 lines covered, then you will get 80%. If you have 7 lines covered, it will be 70%. That is what a very simple logic. Okay, so you should have at least 75% of your the code lines covered. Okay, so you'll have to write a test method to test the actual methods, and in return Salesforce will give you code coverage, and you need minimum 75% of code coverage to deploy it to production. Now, though this is something which is mandatory from salesforce.com side, they have made it a mandatory thing that we have to put the code coverage thing. Fine, so we do it. However, it's also something which is good for us also. If you are a developer, you're working for a client, if you do testing of your code, it's good. So once your code is tested, it will not fail once it is finally deployed. Otherwise, if it you checked it, it was working fine, and finally you deployed and then it was not working, that is a bad situation, right? So it helps you avoid that situation also. So Salesforce makes it mandatory, and otherwise also it is important. All right. So that's about testing. Now let's understand what exactly we do in the test. Let's say in your actual code, so let me just explain this thing to you in a very simple format. Let's say in your actual code you are trying to insert some data. Okay, so your actual code operation will have some insert operation being executed. Let's say that is the thing. So in your test code, what do you have to do? Insert sample data and check if it works. That's it. In your actual code, if you are trying to update some records, in the test code you should try to update some sample records and see if it is working. That's it. So whatever needs to be done in the actual code, the same thing needs to be done in the test code and needs to be checked if it is working fine or not. But there is a difference between the actual code and the test code. The actual code has access to your database. Okay, if you're doing an insert operation, that happens on your actual database, right? Test code is not connected to your database, does not have access to your database. Right? So in your actual code, in case you have written, so I'm just trying to give you the pointers. Please let me know anywhere if you're not able to understand. Okay, so I am trying to do an insert operation in my actual method. I will need to try to insert some sample data in this test method as well. However, the difference is the actual method has access to the database, which means if there is an insert operation happening, that insert operation happens on the actual database. Okay, so you can retrieve data and you can store data or update data. Retrieve data, you can store data, or you can do an update on the actual data. Okay, however, for the test code, that is not the case. Your test methods do not have access to the actual database. So in that case, what you have to do is you have to create your sample data. Okay, so dummy records or dummy records. You have to create dummy records and you will have to perform whatever DML operations with the dummy records. Got that thing? So your test code does not have access to the actual database. It cannot retrieve data from there. For example, if you're writing in actual code, if you say account A equals select, let's say select name and type from account where ID equals something, let's say some variable ID. Okay, so this is fetching this record from the database, right? And then I say a dot type equals, let's say, customer, and then I say update a. Let's say this is my actual code, right? So while I'm testing this, I need to test whether update operation works fine on the account or not. So that is something which I need to test. However, I I simply don't have the access to the database, so I cannot write this SQL query to do this. So what I'll have to do is I can do something like this: account, let's say test account whatever equals. So the test method I should be writing it in this way: equals new account, supply the value from your side, name equals IBM, type equals partner, okay, and then say test account dot type equals customer. So now I'm doing all these things on the sample data that I have supplied from my side, because it does not have access to the actual database. If you understand this small concept, these two lines, you should not have any difficulty with the test class ever in your life. Okay, we just have to understand that it needs to test whatever actual method does, but it does not have access to the actual database. So we will just need to provide the data from our side. So this is what I have given, and I say update test count, or you can just do an uh, insert test account here. So don't worry, it will not create the record in your database. Okay, and so that's it. So I say a new account, I do an insert for it, then I assign the value to the type and I update it. Okay, and this has all happened on the sample record. Okay, no actual access to the database. Now, and finally, you can just go ahead and do a system dot assert equals just do an system dot assert to check whether the type got updated correctly or not. So the type got updated correctly or not. That's our thing. So that's it. There's not much that we actually need to worry about the test method. It's just that you have to create the sample data. You'll have to work on the sample data, test things on the sample data. That's it. Now, this operation, there's another thing that I want you to understand. This will not create any account on your database. Okay, so every test operation is temporary. It does not commit any data manipulation uh, queries on the database. Fine, this is also temporary, so this also does not affect your database by any chance. All right, so let's do a small example here. Okay, let's do a slightly bigger example for the test. Just give me 1 second, let me log in. Okay, so here we are. Let's say I want to write a trigger. I need a trigger and I will test the trigger. So let me just write a small trigger. Let's say on accounts. Let's write a small trigger on accounts. Okay. What I want to do is I just want to say for count A when trigger dot new. Let's say if a dot industry equals technology, a dot description equals technology account. So this is my trigger. Semicolon required here. Yes. Okay. So I just want to do this, that if the industry of that account is technology, it should just go ahead and update the description to technology account. That's it. All right. So this is what my trigger will do. Okay. So this is a before insert trigger, which means it's actually performing an insert operation, though it is not mentioned here explicitly, but it is performing an insert operation. Now, how do you write a test for this? So it's pretty simple. You just have to do a test for this. So what I can do is, for writing a test, you should create a separate class. Okay, create a separate Apex class, and so it's a good practice to write test in a different class. And your test classes should start with @is_test. So this is the annotation which you should begin with your test class, right? So click on new, write a test class, @is_test. Okay. Why I have written this, I'll talk about this. Let's write the class. I say public class test class okay. Now there's no difference between a normal class and test class, all right, but the method has to be a test method. Okay, so any method which needs to perform a test, so Salesforce needs to understand which method is a test method, which method is an actual method. So now I'm going to write a test method. So your test method should always be static test method, and it should always be a void method, so it should not return anything. Okay, so that's it. So these three keywords you have to define for test method. Give it any name, my test method, yeah, or call it test method 1. So just give it any name, right? Now in this, what we'll have to do is, we just have to test whether the account gets inserted and the description gets updated properly. So when I do an insert, because my trigger is supposed to update the information, right? So what I should do is, I should just test that with some sample data. So I'll need to enter some sample data with industry equals technology, and then I'll do a system.assert equals to check whether the description got updated or not. As simple as that. All right. So all that we have to do is, we just have to do a list of account. Okay, and it's important for you to check any trigger with bulk records. All right, because in trigger, what do? We write for loops, right? So it's very important for us to go ahead and check if we are doing the test method with bulk records. All right, so let's say list of accounts, call it ACTS equals new list of accounts. Because it's trigger, I'm checking it with bulk records, so that's fine. All right. Now I'll have to supply the values for these records. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run a for loop to create records, sample records. For I equals 0, I less than 200, I plus plus, count A equals new count, name equals I. Industry equals technology, right? Start add A, close the loop. Okay, so my list of accounts is ready. Okay, so for I equals 0 to 200, less than 200 in fact, I'll just run a for loop to create new accounts and to add them to this list ACTS. Okay, so this gets added into the list. So that's it. So my set of records is ready. Now what I should do, I should just do my testing. So you can do a test dot start test. Okay, and then perform insert. So this is actually what needs to be tested, right? I don't need to test all these things. This is all sample record being created. This does not need to be tested. This is what needs to be tested. So it's always a good habit to start the test where you could have, if you don't mention this, that's also fine. Okay. But then what will happen? This entire thing will get calculated under one transaction and your governor limits will get reduced, right? So if you have performed any DML operations or stuff like that here, that will affect this one, right? So we don't want that. So when you start the test, use this test dot start test method, your governor limits are again refreshed. Okay, and you get fresh governor limits from here. Okay, so that's the reason why we do that. Okay, now you say test dot stop test. Okay, and I will just go ahead and check it. List of, create another list of account, inserted accounts. Okay, so for that let's just do this much. Variable does not exist I at line number 6. Integer I. Expecting right for answer at line 12. Method works. Test method. Okay. That's fine. Okay. So this is my test method, which is actually gonna go ahead and do the check. Fine. Insert these sample records. Okay. After the sample records are inserted, when the actual insert operation has happened, now there is one more thing that I want to do. I just want to go ahead and do a system.assert to check whether the description has got updated to that technology account. So what I actually was planning to do. So let's just do that. So create another list of accounts, call it inserted accounts, and now write select query here, select name, industry, and description. From account where ID in accounts, right? So it will go and check all the records where the ID is in accounts, and here I'll write another for loop for account IA in inserted accounts. I just want to do a system.assert equals, just let me check whether the result is favorable, positive result has come or not. So description field should have become technology account, which field? Description field. Sorry, ia.description. For this record, if the description is equals to technology account or not, that is what my trigger is supposed to do. All right. So here is the test method for my trigger, the one that I've written. All right. So I'm testing it for bulk records. I'm checking also, whether the result as expected are coming or not. Okay. Now let's go ahead and run this test method. So all that you have to do is you have to run this test method. Test method you have written, that's absolutely fine. The only thing that is required to be done here is you have to run the test method. How do you run the test method? You go to Apex classes and you can say run all tests. Okay, so this will run all the test methods which are there defined. Okay, before I get into the other stuff, I will also tell you why did we use @isTest for that class. Okay, why did I use this annotation? There's a simple logic for it. All the code that you write in Salesforce has a limit. If you see here, you have a limit of 3 million characters. So including all your epics, you have a limit of 3 million characters, not more than that. Characters, okay? Not 3 million lines. So this is the limit for the actual code. This is not, it does not include the test code and all, right? So when you write this @isTest before start of a class, this is not counted in that limit. Okay, so these classes will be excluded from that limit. So you will have more characters available to write code. If you don't write this, you can still go ahead and write a test method inside that, but then those test method will also be counted in the limit, so which is something which we don't want to do. Okay, so that's the simple logic. You are currently using, see, if you read it here, you are currently using 14,000 characters of Apex code, excluding comments and this. So the comments that we make in the code and this @isTest annotated classes are excluded out of the limit. So that's it. Okay, otherwise you could have actually written the test method inside anything. So it's actually going to test all the test methods. If you do a run all test, it's going to test all the test methods in your org. Okay, so this is one option. The other option is you go to the developer console. If you just want to go and do a test for a specific test class, go to the developer console. Go to the tests. Okay, here, and you have, what is the name of the class that I have written just now? Okay, or you can just go here, new run. Okay, click on new run, and this is the test class, right? Select the class. It will only show you the classes where there is some test method. So select the class which you want to run, bring it here, and say run. Okay, so this will only run this test class. So you always don't have to run all the tests and all. Okay, so this is a better way of doing it. Run it. See, T1 is the code that I had. It gives 100% code coverage for that code. T1 is a trigger, right? So my test class, once I've run it, all others are at 0% because we have not tested anything, right? Code coverage for this is 100%. 3 lines were there and 3 lines have been tested and they are working fine. Okay, now, so if you go to that trigger now, if you click on this trigger also, it will show you code coverage, right? So you can see the code coverage here. You can see the code coverage on the developer console for any class. So all your classes and all the triggers are listed here. You can see the code coverage here for everything. All right. So this is what we have to do. After every trigger you write, you'll have to write a bit of code which has some sample data, and then that performs the operation, and then that you just check whether the results are positive. That is something which needs to be done. All right. Please let me know if there is any question or doubt. Clear on this? Testing? All right. Now, so that's about testing. This is what is required before you can deploy any code to production. Okay, before you actually start moving any code to the production. So far we have been working with developer edition, so it's absolutely fine. Whatever we are doing is on the developer edition, but once you're working in an organization, you will be more working on the sandbox, right? That is what we have discussed earlier. If you're working on the sandbox and you try to move things to production, you will have a problem if your code does not have 75% code coverage. It will not deploy it to the production. Okay, so you need to have 75% code coverage overall to deploy it to the production. Okay, so that's it. All right. Now, coming to the reference material. All right. So as I told you today, I'm going to share some, some of the reference material with you, which you can refer to. All right. So we have done, a lot of examples during these sessions, and we have talked about a lot of code and programming. However, as you also understand, this is going to be, uh, a practice that you have to get into. It's not something that you will get to know each and everything all of a sudden. So you have to learn a lot more, and it completely depends on how much time you spend and how much you practice and how much you work towards things, right? By now you have concepts, about everything. What is expected out of you, that you should have concepts about everything. Writing program will definitely take some time for you. while you go for an interview, you should be able to use your concepts. No interview requires you to sit and write the program. Right, so people who are still struggling a little with the syntax, don't worry. Be confident on the concepts that you have. Interview requires you only to talk about concepts, and seriously, if I am the interviewer, I will be interested in knowing whether you have the concepts or not. Even if you are not aware of all the syntaxes, you do not know them by heart, that's absolutely fine. I mean, you can see the reference material and get the syntax and everything, right? But still, more you work towards things, you will become an expert in things gradually. All right. So there is some reference material which I'm going to share with you, or I'm going to suggest you, which will be your good friend for at least for the next 1 year or two. So while you are initially working on Salesforce, and even after that. So we will start with Visual Force. For Visual Force, your first best friend to help you is going to be the class recordings. So make sure that you guys and these are all available to you. So keep on going back to the recordings, do revisions whenever required. All right, and if you have if you're not very clear on certain concept, go back and listen to the complete recording, see the code, try to work on it. Okay, so class recording is something which is very important. Apart from that, in people who have actually subscribed to that channel, in case I'm uploading some new videos, I keep on sharing some different examples in some different sessions, so you can actually be subscribed to that, and you will keep on receiving new videos. The ones which you feel you already know, you just can ignore them, and the ones which you feel are new to you, you can actually listen to them. So that's one. Second is the examples in this class. So before you look into any reference material, I would strongly recommend go through all the class recordings and go through all the examples discussed in the class, and you should be crystal clear with all those concepts, whatever we have discussed. Okay. So that's the second thing. Third thing will be a Visual Force workbook, which we have. So there's a workbook called Visual Force Workbook. Okay, there are a few examples. Some of them we have already discussed. You will those will be simple to use. Some of them we have not done. Some new examples. So it's always good to do that workbook at least 2 times. Finish that workbook. So it's a workbook. You just have to do it chapter by chapter, and you can do it twice or thrice. If you finish it, it should not take more than 2 hours or so to finish it once. So if you are able to do it 2 times or 3 times, it should be fine. So there's a Visual Force workbook. Here's the link. Okay, so Visual Force workbook is one nice thing to refer to. And then there is the big book for Visual Force, which is Visual Force Reference Guide, Developer's Guide. So you should use these materials or references in the same sequence as I'm mentioning here. Then it makes a lot of sense for you. So first of all, go through the class recordings, then look into those examples, try to create a little complex examples, then go through the workbook at least twice, and then go to the reference guide. So this reference guide is a big book. Okay, if you try to read the entire reference guide, you will become a Salesforce developer maybe next year. So you don't have that much of time. So the good idea is go through the Visual Force workbooks and sessions and all these things, and then read selective items on the reference guide. It's actually a big book. It has close to 200 pages. So we never have time for reading 200 pages. So just be selective on what you want to learn while you go to the reference guide, and that will happen only if you have done these 3 things before you get into the reference guide. All right. That's for Visual Force. Same goes with Apex. Okay. We have the class recordings, and we have the examples discussed in the class. and then we have an Apex workbook. Same way we have a workbook for Apex. I'm just gonna mail it to you after the session. Okay, and we have an Apex developers guide as well. Apex code developers guide. And always use the links that I'm sharing. I mean, there are two versions of each of these documents. One is the HTML version, the one which I'm opening now, and one is the PDF version. Okay, so don't download a PDF. Sometimes we say I think that PDF is going to be helpful. I don't find PDF really helpful because you do not have that option of navigating. So in HTML, the best part is you can navigate it very quickly. Okay, you can expand these things. So if I'm talking about ways of invoking Apex, and I'm actually thinking about uh, some asynchronous Apex, and I just want to know more about Cable Apex, so I have that option, right? So it makes your life a lot more easier. Trust me on this, PDF does not help you at all. So don't go with the PDF, always try to use the HTML version of it. Okay, so we have Apex code developers guide. Okay, so that's about Apex. SOQL and SOSL, there is a reference guide for SOQL and SOSL, which is here. SOQL and SOSL reference guide. That's also HTML. So this is where you can find all the syntax related to SOQL, SOSL, how the query needs to be written, what all needs to be passed on, and stuff like that. So about SOSL there, typographical conventions, the statement, how to use a where clause, order by clause, and all that stuff. So everything is there. All right. For business logic section, I think I have shared a few PDFs with you for formulas, workflows, and approvals. Please let me know if I have shared some PDFs on this with examples. Someone has to answer. Yes, Navita says yes. Okay, great. Thank you. So you can use those PDFs for the business logic section to practice more on the formulas, workflows, and approvals part, right? And apart from that, you also can refer to the Salesforce.com help for any topic. Mostly topics which are related to which are not that much into Visualforce and Apex. Anything related to maybe the page layout, or anything which is related to something like permissions and profile sets, and permission sets and the profiles, or organization wide defaults, or creating email templates. So whatever, all these small things. There are a lot of other things uh, which include the default functionalities of Salesforce. For that, Salesforce.com help is the best place. Okay, so if you do not know how to use a certain option, the best thing that you can do is you can just go to that particular thing. So if you want more information on let's say uh, let's say workflow rules. Okay, so you should just go to workflow rules, and from here you can always go to help for this page. So this is the best place for you to get help on any topic. Okay, whatever is there in the menu. So I understand there are a lot of things here which are not regularly used, but if you are required to use that, you can just go here and you will get a lot of details here about that particular topic. And it also opens with that browse help. So you always can, navigate through this. Okay. Again, don't try to go through this entire thing, because that will become very difficult for you. But it's always good to look into this for any part of help that you want, right? Enhancing your objects, data, using custom objects and records and all that stuff, custom object records overview and all that, right? So the salesforce.com help is again one nice thing that you can always refer to. Okay, in case anyone is willing to go for certification exams, depends whether you are employer wants you to be certified, or whether the consulting company that is working with you, they ask you to get certified. In case you plan to go for a certification exam, there is a nice link here which is called certification.salesforce.com. Here it is. So you will find all the details related to certification.salesforce.com here. Okay. For you guys, you should go for Dev 401 certification, which is also called the developer certification. So this is a certification you should ideally do. However, if you want more information on other certifications also, you can just go to certification.salesforce.com. Okay, this link will help you understand each and everything about certification. What are certification for administrator, what certification for developers, what's the certification for implementation experts. So if you look into developer is a certification that you should do. I don't think you guys are gonna do admin certification. So in developer, again, there are two certifications, developer and advanced developer. So you can always read about that certification exam, how many questions, how much time, what is the passing score, how much registration fee, what is the retake fee, everything is here. Okay, and you also have a study guide here. Okay, so this study guide, for every exam you have a study guide. The study guide basically allows you to study guide allows you to kind of look into the complete syllabus of your exam. Okay, what all questions will be asked from where, and also if you look into this developer certification exam, there is no Visualforce, no Apex. Okay, so this is a simple exam. In case you are required to go for certification, go for this one. Anyhow, you cannot go for advanced developer before clearing this, so this is the only option that is left for you. Okay, so this is where you get, what am I doing? Yeah, so this is where you get the weightage of this topics. Application design is 5%, force.com platform understanding is 5%, data model is 32%. It includes things like creating objects, tabs, profiles, permission sets, organization by default. User interface is 15%, which includes things like page layout and stuff. Business logic is 23%, which includes the formulas, validations, workflows, approval processes. Data management is 10%, data loader and stuff like that. Reporting, reports and dashboards is 10%. So you see there is no actual Visualforce or Apex in this. So it's easy for you to clear. So certification is not difficult, but completely depends on what is your requirement. Do you actually need a certification? Uh, you know, when you start marketing your resume, I think the recruiter will help you understand that. For certification, it's required for the kind of jobs that you're going to apply for. All right. So this is going to be your reference for all the certification exams in case you plan to do that. All right. So that's about all reference material that you have, and I think this is a lot of material that you have. There's no better material from this. Yeah, of course. Initially, I have shared some of the workbooks. If you remember, there was a workbook for force.com development, but those are things which you have already done. So those have stuff like create objects and tabs and fields, so that's there, but you guys know a lot more than that, so I would not refer you those things. All right, so this is a reference material that you can have. Now what next? Next is a mock test okay, that we have on Wednesday. So you have time till Wednesday for the mock test, right? And we have a doubts session on Thursday. Okay. So we don't have a session on Monday, we don't have anything on Tuesday, we have a mock session on Wednesday. So you have enough time to prepare for the things, and then appear for the mock test, and then we will have a doubt session on Thursday. So doubt session is where we are gonna talk about any doubts or clarifications that you need. All right. So that's what we are gonna do, right? So I'll see you all on Wednesday for the mock test. It's gonna be the same time as usual, and it's gonna be the same link. All right.
Ji.
Yep.
Sorry, can you hear me?
I can hear
Yes.
you. Yes, please go ahead.
You know, I'll be traveling next whole week
Mm-hmm.
for a family thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, is it possible? Would you be conducting this mock test with any other
See, this is
groups that I can?
yeah. So that's an online test. So what you can do is, I mean, all that I have to do is I have to share a link with you, and you guys have to do it on your own. So once you are, free, maybe Sunday or Monday, whenever you are done with your traveling part,
Okay.
you can just drop me an email.
Okay.
I'm gonna share that link with you, and you can do it individually.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
that should not be a problem.
Thank you. Okay. That sounds great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
All right.
Ajit,
Yep.
the mock test means we will have like books from
Mock
all
test is
from starting.
exam. Yes.
Hmm. Okay.
So that exam helps me evaluate how you have been, or maybe how I have been performing all these days. That's it.
Okay.
So
Okay.
don't worry about that. It's a simple test. So I just want you to go through all the things. Why I actually use this mock test, so that you take out some time, read through all the concepts and stuff, and then we will have this small exam, and it's going to be an online test which you will do on your own, and it's going to be an open book test as well. So you will be allowed to refer to any material that you want to. So that's about that mock test, and after that we have the doubt session. So also be ready with your doubts or questions that you have. So do a thorough revision. Maybe next 3-4 days. I want you to spend as much time as possible. Do good revision and be ready for the mock test as well as the doubt session.